would like to welcome you to our Saturday Night Live Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center Talk and Prayer. We're back with you live on Facebook Saturday nights. So we're very excited. My name is Reverend Margaret Palagye. I am the founding minister of Joyful Gathering. And it's located now in Collingswood, New Jersey. We're very excited. We're hoping to get back there sometime in January. We'll see how everything goes, God willing. But for now, we have Facebook Live. Our services are, as you can see, on Facebook Live, but they're also on YouTube under my name for the channel, Margaret Palagye, Rev. Margaret Palagye. Okay. All of our other events, which includes a class that begins this week on Tuesday night, Radical Forgiveness, you can find them on our website, joyfulgathering.org. Yay. Okay. And please don't forget that you can make a donation on Venmo, PayPal, or check that website out again. There's an address, joyfulgathering.org. So we're going to start right now by taking a deep breath together. And as we do the beginning of every service, we're going to inhale some quality. So let's inhale peace. And let's exhale peace. And let's inhale light. And exhale that light, yes. Get ourselves centered in this loving energy. As we begin tonight's inspirational talk, the gift of self. So this month we've been focusing on the gifts of the season. Not gifts that you earn, but gifts that are automatically given. They're within each and every one of us. And just for the record, we're not talking about those physical gifts. No, we're talking about something so much more powerful and exciting and fulfilling. We're talking about those indwelling spiritual gifts. Ernest Holmes wrote this in Science of Mind. The gifts of heaven come to all alike. How we shall use the gifts is all that matters. And so this whole month I've been using that quote because it's really, right now we're focusing on two questions. The first question is, what gifts of God, gifts of spirit, gifts of heaven am I open to receive? Second question is, and how shall I use these gifts? And I have framed all my talks for this month around those two questions, and we'll do the same today. And so the gift for this talk is the gift of self, the true self, our higher self, our God self. And so we're going to take those two questions and ask them around this gift of self. And it goes like this. What gifts of self am I willing to receive and open to receive? And the second question is, how will I use these gifts? So the first question, what gifts of self am I open to receive? 2 Sundays ago, we did a visualization, which I invited you to unwrap. So to consciously receive at least one gift within yourself. And if you were there at Sunday's service, we were in person then. We did this whole exercise, this experiential meditation. It was so lovely. And we identified a gift within ourselves, a gift that we have. And if you weren't there then, you can think of one now. This is an internal gift. And so my rhetorical question for you this evening is, how have you been open to receive and experience that gift over the past couple of weeks? Or have done what many of us do. Maybe you identified something and maybe it felt It felt really good in the moment. Like we got this gift. 2 weeks ago, we got this gift. Maybe right now, you got this gift. And this gift feels like, this makes me feel so good. I had the gift of joy within me. I had the gift of joy. And it feels really good until we encounter that old self-talk. The talk that goes on within our minds. And I think most of us know what this is. It's the talk that lists all of our deficiencies, weaknesses, failures, inadequacies, and limitations. Oh yeah, goes on all the time. Or it could be the self-talk that says, I'm really too fearful and afraid to allow that gift to be brought into the light. And so you've kept it wrapped up, never to be used, maybe even hidden away. It's time to break out those gifts. Don't you think? I do. It's time to break out those gifts. There was once an ad in the New York Times for a plastic safe that looked like, and exactly it looked like, moldy old cabbage. You didn't need a combination or a key to open it because it had the secret clasp that could only be opened if held in a certain direct way. If you did, it would split open and you could hide all of your jewels inside of there and nobody would ever go in the refrigerator to look inside this old cabbage. Sometimes we're like the cabbage safe. We think we're just moldy cabbage, but really the jewels that are in us, the gifts that we have, are there, just waiting for us to unlock them so we can express them. And we unlock them by coming to know ourselves. As Scripture says, know ye not that ye are God's? We are God-informed. That is what we are. We are God-informed. We are the perfect expressions of this divine light. We are. Ernest Holmes writes this: the real self is God-given and cannot be denied. It is the place where God comes to a point of individualization and personified expression. That's us. That's us. He also says, today I encourage you, I invite you, I urge you to be open to receive the gift of who you are, to honor that gift of who you are, and let the gift of who you are express even in the face of your perceived limitations, fears, and challenges. Be the truth that we are meant to be. There's so much within us that we have stuffed down. Now is the time, and I'm inviting all of us this week to give ourselves that gift that's trying to get out and be expressed in the world. And now it leads us to the second question. How should I use these gifts? That's the question, right? In Galatians chapter 6, verse 22, it is written, and the gifts of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such there is no law. Nothing can stop these beautiful gifts from being expressed except for our own doubt and ego mind. But how should we use these gifts? The world needs, it truly does, it needs you to heal your perceived limitations and be all that you were created to be. The world needs you to give your gifts today. And truly, if there ever was a time in our world, on this planet, right here, right now, where our gifts, the gifts of love and laughter and joy and light and kindness were ever needed, it would be right here and right now. Those gifts are needed to help heal this planet, this country. There's a Sufi teaching which talks about the spiritual seeker who is praying, and there is before him the cripple, the beggar, the beaten, and seeing them, he cries out, "Great God, how is it that a loving creator can see such things and do nothing about them?" God replied, "I did something. I made you to be the healing presence of the world. And you think you can't? You can. It takes one soul, one light at a time. Believe me, you can make a difference, and you will." There was a little Catholic church in a plaza called Santa Rosa. One Sunday morning, as the congregation filled in, there was a loud intake of breath. The statue of Jesus stood in the corner as usual, but vandals had entered the chapel and broken off the hands of the statue. After Mass, the priest organized a committee of parishioners to investigate the crime and to buy a new statue. The following Sunday, as the congregation filed in for Mass, there was another loud intake of breath. This time, a sign hanging around the statue's neck. It was carefully hand-lettered and said, "I have no hands but yours." We are the hands of God, the universal light, the energy that is divine, whatever you want to call this higher power. We are the physical forms in life. It is up to us to heal and shine that light. That's the absolute truth. There's a Bible example. It's a story of a lame beggar who asked alms from Peter and John as they were going into the gate of the temple. Peter said, "Silver and gold I have none, but such as I have I give unto thee. Arise and walk." And the man picked up his bed and walked. "Such as I have I give unto thee." Those words are the key. Today we are talking about giving of what you have. Giving of self. Giving of self. It seems like in today's world we are more apt to say one of these two things. Gold and silver have I much, so here's my generous gift. Or, gold and silver I have so little of, so I have nothing to give you. If we have either of those attitudes, we have missed something very important. We have missed the wonder of putting ourselves into the gift. And it was said, "Such as I have, I give unto thee." And I ask again, think to yourself, how am I using my gifts? How am I extending who I truly am out into the world? And I have this story for you to kind of end the talk in a way. We're going to do a prayer afterwards, but it's a story that was written by Robert Fulghum in his book. It was on fire when I lay down on it. So this is by Robert Fulghum. John Piermont died a failure, or at least so he thought. In 1866, he came to the end of his days as a government clerk in Washington, D.C. He felt like he never made a difference, never contributed anything to the betterment of humankind. And here is his story. Maybe you can find a little bit of something in there. Things began well enough. He graduated from Yale, which his grandfather had helped found, and chose education as his profession. And he had some really fond enthusiasm around that. But he was a failure at teaching. He was too easy on his students. And so he turned to the legal world for training. He was also a failure as a lawyer because he was too generous to his clients and too concerned about justice to bring in the high-paying clients. The next career he took up was that of dry goods merchant. But he was also a failure in that business. Often because he was not a really good businessman, because lots of the time he would not charge enough for his goods. Or he would give them away. He was too liberal with his credit. In the meantime, he had been writing poems. And though they were published, he didn't collect enough money from the royalties. So he decided to become a minister. Went off to Harvard Divinity School, was ordained minister of the Hollis Street Church in Boston. But his position for prohibition and against slavery got him crosswise with the influential membership. So he needed then to resign. Someone found him an obscure job as a clerk in a government office. And he finished out his last years of his life as a file clerk. But he wasn't very good at that either. His heart just was not in it. John Pierpont died a failure. He had accomplished nothing he had set out to do. There was a small memorial stone marking his grave in Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The words in the granite read, poet, preacher, philosopher, philanthropist. From this distance in time, however, one might insist that he was not, in fact, a failure. His commitment was to social justice, his desire to be a loving human being, his active engagement in the great issues of the times, and his faith in the power of humankind are not failures. In truth, much of what he thought of as defeat became success. Education was reformed. Legal processes were improved. Credit laws were changed. And above all, slavery was abolished once and for all. And there is another way in which John Pierpont was not a failure. For every year, come December, we celebrate his success. We carry our hearts, in our hearts and minds, a lifelong memorial to him. It's a song. It's not about God or Jesus or the angels or Santa Claus. It is a terribly simple song about the simple pleasures of life, of friendship, of laughter. It's a song that millions of people around the world can identify with the first note played on a piano, because it's a chord, it's a note that rings true and brings joy to our heart. He wrote Jingle Bells, and this is how he wrote it. This is a man who thought of himself as a failure. One snowy afternoon in deep winter, John Pierpont penned the words to Jingle Bells as a small gift to his family and friends and his congregation. And in doing so, he left a permanent gift of Christmas. The best kind, not one that's under the tree. No, the invisible, invincible gift of self. That's what he left to all of us. And I'm saying that we all have within us these tremendous gifts, and we don't recognize them all the time. Some of us do. Seek, find, and express the gifts that are jewels sparkling within you. You are a brilliant ornament on the Christmas tree. You are sparkling. So let that sparkling ornament, that is you, let it shine, let it go out into the world because it ripples. That energy ripples. Be the gift. Be the gift that you were born to be. And so I want to end this by saying, Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm going to